Hey guys, after credit here. Today I want to talk to you guys about Hawkeye's trick arrows. With the new Disney Plus series currently airing, I thought it would be interesting to dive deeper into the potential trick arrows we may see in the remaining 4 episodes of Disney Plus's Hawkeye. Let's get started. The first arrow I want to talk about is the sonic arrow. The sonic arrow is used by Hawkeye with the goal of distraction. The arrow emits a high-pitched 95 decibel sound 2 seconds after release, and can distract enemies to look or go towards the direction it's shot. Damage is not the primary function of the sonic arrow. For example, if Hawkeye sees himself cornered or at a disadvantageous position, he could opt for the sonic arrow to distract the enemies in his space so that he can move to a better vantage point, recalibrate, and shoot more damaging arrows in his arsenal. If Clint doesn't want to engage with the enemy for whatever reason, maybe he's damaged or Kate's damaged and they use this to distract the enemy, they could use the sonic arrows to divert the enemy's attention so that they can escape. In the comics, you can see that Hawkeye uses this in Hawkeye Volume 4, where he accidentally shoots a sonic arrow in a car chase that whizzes by the pursuer and distracts them. As far as the future of the MCU, I could definitely see Clint or Kate use the sonic arrow against Venom or any symbiote that they introduce into the MCU. And after Venom Let There Be Carnage, we can see that Venom is a part of the MCU, so we could see Hawkeye and Venom clash in the near future, or Kate clash with Venom, which would be crazy. And we could see the sonic arrow being used in that way, not for distraction, but actually for offense. The second arrow I want to talk about is the explosive tip arrow. The explosive tip arrow has had many names over the years. Blast arrow, blaster arrow, concussion arrow, demolition blast arrow, or even the power blast arrow. All of these mean the same thing. The arrow contains a composite plastic explosive that detonates on impact of the target. The point is that the arrow packs an explosive punch that is primarily used for devastating attacks to destroy or disperse groups of enemies or target a large enemy's weak spot. We see Kate Bishop use this arrow in the official Hawkeye trailer in a car chase for one of the upcoming episodes, so it won't be long until we see one in action. There's also a variation of this arrow that can be remotely detonated. Hawkeye uses this effectively in Avengers when he is attacking the helicarrier, and this is while he's under the influence of Loki, mind you, so he's not acting his normal self. And then you can also see this in the climax of the Avengers when he tries to shoot Loki with an explosive arrow. Loki catches it and it explodes in his face, which was awesome. We also see Hawkeye use this effectively in Avengers Age of Ultron against Ultron, and in Captain America Civil War against Black Panther. And Black Panther kind of does the same thing that Loki does. I doubt that Hawkeye will ever stop using the explosive tip arrow just because of its effectiveness of damage and the multi-use that he can use it for any type of situation. And I can't wait to see it in the upcoming episodes of the Hawkeye series. Next, we take a look at an arrow that Hawkeye absolutely loves to use to get out of sticky situations, the cable arrow. The cable arrow contains a spool of 50-foot, 0.16-inch cable that unreels through the shaft of the arrow. Famously, we see this arrow in use in the Avengers when the Chitauri destroy Hawkeye's vantage point and he has to make a quick escape. We also see it from a different angle in the opening scene of Hawkeye, where a young Kate Bishop sees Hawkeye in action, inspiring her to take up archery growing up. And Hawkeye then becomes her favorite Avenger. Next is the electrical arrow. The electrical arrow can be used to stun enemies or deal damage to them. Electrical arrows can be used tactically to overload electrical circuits and equipment. They are highly effective against robotic enemies and can deal damage when used in water. So, if Clint had a group of enemies in the water, all he would need to do is shoot an electrical arrow into the water, destroying all of his enemies or disabling all of his enemies. We can see one of these arrows in use in Age of Ultron when Wanda tries to sneak up on Hawkeye and he effectively uses the arrow on Wanda, pressing a electrical arrow into her forehead, knocking her out and avoiding hand-to-hand combat. Next is a unique one. It's called the bola arrow. This one's fun. Originally, gauchos would use bolas to capture running cattle or game, usually go for the legs. The bola or boladoras, in Hawkeye's case, have balls in the tip of the arrow that deploy before hitting the target. Once the bola arrow reaches the target, the balls rapidly spin around the target, capturing them. Hawkeye may use this to subdue a target that he needs to capture alive. In the comics, we see Hawkeye use this on enemy weapons and flying lizards, if you can believe it. Next is the acid arrow. This arrow is nasty. Can you imagine getting hit by an acid arrow and having it literally eat your flesh away? As the name suggests, the acid arrow has many uses, including the ability to burn through metal. It would have been really cool to see this arrow in action in different ways, especially in Age of Ultron, just to disintegrate enemies. However, this arrow isn't just used for offense. Hawkeye can use this arrow to break into or out of places, depending on his needs and what the mission requires. The last arrow on our list is the Vibranium arrow. Vibranium has already been introduced at the MCU, so we may see a version of this arrow in the near future. Captain America's shield is made from Vibranium, and much of the technology in Wakanda and in Black Panther uses this very hard and rare metal. We may see this being used in the future, especially with Wolverine now part of the MCU. And adamantium is more than likely going to be introduced in the future. A vibranium arrow would be able to pierce adamantium, and so we may see Hawkeye against Wolverine, or we may also see Hawkeye against Venom. Two characters that have been recently introduced or teased to be introduced into the MCU. So my question to you guys is, which trick arrow would you use the most if you're Hawkeye? Would you use the Vibranium arrow and go up against Wolverine or any other strong enemy? Would you go for the cable arrow and swing around the city and have fun with it? Or would you maybe use the sonic arrow and see if you can run into Venom and see what kind of damage you could give to him? Personally, I would use the explosive tip arrow just because that would be the most fun. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Make sure you like and comment below what your favorite trick arrow is, and subscribe to the channel. This is only the beginning of the channel. This is my first video, so any love or constructive criticism would be greatly appreciated. And yeah, I will see you guys after the credits.